I'd now like to pass on to Masato Takamatsu from the Rise Japan.
So, which goes forward? This is backward. Okay, thanks. Hi, very good afternoon. I'm Masato, representing Rise Network Japan. And I'm also an expert in tourism crisis management in DRI. Well, as you see, my presentation today is titled Welcoming the Stranded Tourists and Commuters, Rise Japan and the Resilience in the Japanese Context. Wow, tourists and commuters? What do they do? Oh, well, what is common is they are far from their home when the disaster strikes. Okay, let's start. Before I start my presentation, let me ask you something. How many of you have heard about Arise? Please raise your hand if you heard at least the name Arise. Thank you very much. Fantastic. More than 4. Great number. Well, I think this is a great opportunity for me to introduce our activities in the organization. ARISE is the UNDR Private Sector Alliance for Disaster Resilient Societies. In other words, it's an alliance of private sector entities led by the UNDRR. Well, I said led by UNDR. Actually, our special representative to Secretary General, Ms. Mami Mizutori, of course you know her, is one of our co-chairs of our organization, and the Secretariat of ARISE lies within UNDR. So we are definitely part of the UNDR strategic framework. See? And currently, there are 12 national networks and more than 200 members worldwide in 25 countries in the world. And we are expecting to welcome new networks, namely UAE, that's going to be the first in Arabian countries, and UK, France, and Bangladesh. So in total, it's going to be like 16. And in the very near future, we'll have more. And Japan is, of course, one of them. And ARISE Japan was established in 2015. And we have more than 20 members. And we are working on disaster risk reduction and disaster resilience in the respective fields and industries, ranging from infrastructure, construction, engineering, to various kinds of technology, to insurance, and to travel and tourism, which I belong to. And ARISE Japan's main activity is educating the wider private sector through our annual public symposiums. We have one of those every year. And we give Japanese business a taste of the global discussions which we're enjoying now at here, and hosting interactive multi-stakeholder dialogues. And we feedback the learning from Japan through global platforms and other regional conferences in Asia. So in short, we act as a conduit between global, regional, national, and local levels. Now, let's go into my main discussion. Today, what is hot in Japan right now in terms of DRI is disaster resilience for tourists and visitors. And as you can see in the graph, we have seen an extraordinary growth of the international visitors over the last decade. And this year and next year, we're hosting 2 major international sports events. This year, we are hosting Rugby World Cup, and next year in 2020, we're hosting Olympic Paralympics Games in Tokyo. So we'll be adding those people who are coming for those events to the extra increase of the tourists. But at the same time, we are observing some increase in disaster risks in Japan. Well, and disaster resilience for tourists is very closely linked with disaster resilience for stranded commuters. As you know, Japan is extremely urbanized country. There's no missing map in our country. And according to some statistics, more than 91% of Japan's population live in urban areas. More than 91%, compared to a global average of 68%. And because of the large population in the surrounding areas of the mega cities, over 55% of residents commute more than 1 hour each way to work or to school. And in 2011, we experienced a great Eastern Japan earthquake and tsunami that you may still remember. And at the time, more than 5 million non-residents were stranded in Greater Tokyo overnight because all the transportation, trains, buses, they all suspended after the earthquake strikes. And I was one of them. I had to stay overnight in the office and got home the next day around 2 o'clock. Well, it took me more than 4 hours to get home. Usually takes 1 hour and a half. But that day, because of still disruption in the transportation, it took such a long time. Anyway, in addition to that, there are more people who had to walk home throughout the night. So across Japan, not just in Tokyo, we're taking steps to prepare for those stranded commuters. Oops. And Japan is tackling the stranded commuter issue through public and private partnerships and collaboration. In Japan, where disasters are frequent, we expect everyone to pitch in and not expect public assistance for everything. So you can't, depend on the government, everything, every support. Instead, you are if you can walk home, or even if it's a big distance, then individuals are expected to make an effort to walk home. But we don't let them do that all by themselves. In Greater Tokyo, there is now an extensive net of private companies ready to assist people walk home great distances. The system is created by a coalition of 9 local governments in Greater Tokyo area and more than 50 large business chains that have agreed to offer the use of their stores and resources, including offering their stores as a restroom stations or use of the toilets on their way back home and information hub and etc. etc. And this is the list of the companies who have agreed to cooperate in that collaboration. In addition to that, yes, we have some measures for sheltering the people who are stranded. Workplaces and schools are expected to shelter those who cannot walk home, their students or workers. But what about the visitors? They have no place to, their work office, or they don't have schools to be sheltered. So our 2016 annual symposium discussed the use of the private sector facilities, such as the convention centers, shopping malls, or office buildings as temporary shelters for such people. And this practice is now quite widespread across Japan. And city preparedness drills conducted together with the businesses involved. Now, practice now how to effectively guide visitors to those private facilities. So we are quite ready to host those people. Then what about the tourists? This year in our symposium, there was a presentation on the survey on the needs of the stranded international visitors after disaster in Japan. And what the main finding was that visitors require a different set of information. What kind of information? Their primary focus was, of course, on how to find a way back home to their country. And Japan is quick to reflect lessons learned on that policy. And we had several major disasters last year. For example, the closure of the Kansai Osaka airport due to the flooding of the high tide caused by the strong typhoon. And the airport was closed for a few weeks. And there are thousands of people who lost their way home because of the closure of the airport. And, the researchers has already moved national and local government policy in action, and it's resulting in the creation of the centralized information boards like this one in multiple languages: Japanese, English, simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, and Korean. And by ministry to outlets, and a new way of handling emergency announcement by various private transport companies. Let me quickly give you one other example. Okinawa Prefecture, located in the south end of the Japan Islands, is a leader in terms of the tourism disaster risk management. Okinawa saw a tenfold increase in international visitors in a decade, from 250,000 in 2009 to 2.9 million last year. Wow. And characteristics of Okinawa's disaster risk management is public-private collaboration, where the tourism industry businesses are committed to make prefectural DRM plans run smoothly in practice. Okinawa also has a robust post-disaster industry Build Back Better plan, where stakeholders have brainstormed the steps to recover the tourism industry quickly. For a tourist destination to be resilient, it has to work beyond those directly involved, such as transportation, hotels, attraction, and travel agencies. And resilience comes when everyone else, including construction, ICT, consulting, weather information, finance, and others are also engaged, both businesses and public sector agencies and departments. And this is the kind of the thing that RISE networks can make a difference in. We're a mixed industry group of people from companies who are committed to work on DRI and resilience, and as a local network, we're connected at the local level to other business initiatives, government agencies, and local governments, other stakeholders. Resilient tourist destinations are more competitive, and Japan is working to stay competitive in this growth sector. And with that word, I'd like to close my presentation. Thank you for listening.